fancy people. My name is Micah.
My name is Jordan McCaw.
And you know that you have, on every episode, been referred to as our fancy people. That is like what they call the Macaw Podcast Universers. Yeah. Not first class, not second class, fancy class. And today, well, we're the Macaw Podcast Universe.
Okay. Yeah. We exist to prove people wrong when they say Seals are never the originals. But today, for the fancy pants listeners, we're pulling back the curtain to kind of see what the common man has been watching in the last couple of years. And that and that means today we're covering X-Men Apocalypse. Bad joke, probably.
No. That's funny. Tell us about the X-Men experience so far, Jordan. You know, I kind of summarize it when we get started.
It has hit an all-time low with this movie.
Oh, interesting.
Is that a true interesting? Because I think you agree. I said out loud at some point in this movie, probably pretty early on, I said, just so you know, I'm no longer listening to what's happening. I can't listen to this anymore.
Well, would it surprise you to note that I may argue this is the best one so far?
You're not. You're not going to.
I don't know, Jordan.
No, you're not, because you wouldn't do that to our marriage.
No, this movie sucks so hard. I hate it.
The IMDb scores are way too high for this movie.
But still pretty middling.
That's too high.
So I think 2016 is kind of this weird little moment in time. And I didn't go back and look to confirm, but it feels like, you know, for so long, superhero movies were fighting to be valid forms of film, right? And I feel like 2016, it's pretty prevalent. It's kind of ruling the box office, but it also feels like that's a moment where critics are like, you know what? Like, these movies pretty much rock. And it just feels like superhero movies in the middle teens up till now, like phase 4, it feels like every superhero movie kind of gets a pass where they're like, yeah, that's a great movie again. That's a great movie again. And then it felt like after Endgame, now everyone's kind of like, you know, I'm kind of done with these. But then, I mean, I think it's just more fair now where people aren't necessarily like propping them up. There was just like a moment. I don't know. Do you feel that way? I felt like there was a moment where it was like, we're giving these maybe more credit than they actually deserve at this point.
I think you have your finger more on the pulse of the critic stuff than I do.
Yeah, that's true.
So I can't totally speak to that.
Because it's like, I have consistently liked superhero movies, but something like Captain America Civil War, a movie that we wound up liking when we rewatched it, you know, I think it has like a pretty high Metascore. And it's like, yeah, it's good, but it's not like as good a Metascore as, you know, some classic movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it's not as good as that. And it's kind of weird that we're like putting it up to that level.
Yeah.
But this is in that time period. Age of just Apocalypse. It's X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's not Age of Apocalypse. I don't know why I keep saying that. But even this one, even during that time, it's like, this should be like in the red Metascore. This is a terribly made. It's a terrible script. It is not a good movie. And the fact that this movie has like middle scores is kind of insane.
It's so ridiculous.
I was thinking about it, and I, off the top of my head, I think it's my least favorite superhero movie I've ever seen.
Probably the same for me too.
Because I was thinking about like Batman v Superman. I guess the original Justice League cut is about as bad as a movie can possibly be.
As bad as it gets. But that movie didn't look as bad as this movie. This movie looked awful.
The first Justice League looks pretty bad.
What's the first Justice League? Like
the one that's not Zack Snyder cut.
Oh, okay.
It looks really bad.
Okay.
But this
they
movie,
can both be on the bottom together.
Yeah. I mean, I would, you know, when we finished the movie, I was kind of like, well, maybe Eternals is worse because that's my least favorite MCU movie. But after thinking about it, I'm like, no. This movie is worse than every MCU movie, I think.
Yeah.
It's really atrocious, and we are gonna dig into it. And we try not to be the podcast that just beats up a movie, but folks, put on your boxing gloves. get out your scissors so that you can cut this movie's eyelids when they've been beaten too hard.
Okay. Where were you going with that?
Boxing.
Yeah.
Because we are gonna beat up this movie, and I think it deserves it.
Yeah. Do you think that? Well, I know you did the production notes, but is this like kind of a product of coasting at this point?
Define it. What do you mean?
That they've been pretty successful the whole time, and they're like, oh, let's make this apocalypse movie, which I'm assuming is a pretty popular run in comics. And I mean, all of them are. I feel like anytime they make a movie, and then they're just like, yeah, we got Oscar Isaac, we got the other cast back with a couple new people. Let's just throw it together and see what happens. It feels like no one worked hard on this movie.
Yeah,
including the actors.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's being. It's just sometimes you watch something. This is like Black Adam, where it's like, from the way people talk about it that they are passionate about it. It's just not good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like this is like, oh my gosh, we're going to have Apocalypse and we're going to bring in like the young versions of some of the other character stuff. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to show it to everyone. And it's like, yeah, it's just not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a terrible, terrible script.
Yeah.
Man. But yeah, I think Black Adam is a much better movie than this. Which, imagine someone saying that.
I can't fathom. I before seeing this movie, couldn't fathom a world like that.
And here we are. We're in that world.
Yeah.
We've actually been living in that world. We just didn't know it yet. It was like Schrodinger's cat until this moment.
Uh-huh.
And on the bright side, I was kind of thinking that the X-Men franchise was going to feel like this movie for all of the later entries.
Me too.
And I was happy to note that Deadpool stood up. The Wolverine was great. I mean, Future Past and X-Men First Class all kind of felt that way. And then we know that Dark Phoenix is going to be bad. There's no way we're going to like that.
But those movies didn't look bad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Days of Future Past got pretty close to as bad as
But there were some things that I liked how they, like I liked how they visually did stuff. In this movie, no opinions of that sort. None.
Oh, wow. How fancy, Jordan. You're just like our fans. Okay. So guess what? The movie is again directed by super creep Bryan Singer. And guess what? This is it. We're done with him after this.
Finally.
Unless we ever cover the Superman movies, because he did recent one.
What's the recent one? How long ago was that? That's the guy.
The 2006 one.
And that's the guy from Scott Pilgrim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have seen that one.
I have not. It also has super creep
Kevin Spacey.
As Lex Luthor. So the screenplay is by Simon Kinberg again. I'm starting to think that is
he on all of them? I haven't been paying attention.
He's been on I can't remember if he was on First Class, but he's been involved in all of the movies to some degree. But he's really written on Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and then he goes on to direct
Dark Phoenix.
And he's a writer on the original movies and stuff. So he definitely has some magic, but I feel like maybe he's getting more and more creative control, and it's getting less and less good. But also, like, Bryan Singer's clearly lost his mojo by now, because the first two movies are good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then the story is by Singer, Kinberg, Michael Dougherty, and Dan Harris. They've worked on these movies. The cinematography is by Newton Thomas Sigel. He's worked on these movies. The music is by John Ottman. He's worked on these movies.
Yeah, I think they're all phoning it in. I think they're all burnout.
Yeah, that could very well be.
That's my prognosis.
The movie comes out May 27th, 2016. Now, this is nutso. It has a $178 million budget. And it makes $155 million in the U.S.
How are the scores so high if it didn't make money back?
I guess nobody saw it.
Okay.
But this is less domestically, without inflation, than the first X-Men movie it made domestically.
Woof.
Yeah, so that's...
And they still made Dark Phoenix.
Yeah. But worldwide, it did make 543, so it makes its money back. But that is far lower than a lot of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading this Forbes article, by Scott Mendelson, and I thought it came out at the time, and he was kind of like, this box office shows quite a few things about the franchise. The studio's got to like figure some stuff out, because it's kind of like, it's either just not connecting and they need to figure something else out, or he argued, and thinking about the movie, I was like, oh, I think he's right. He basically argued this box office means, potentially, like this is his theory, that it means that in order to have a successful movie, you have to have Hugh Jackman as a major role and like some of the original cast.
So what he's saying is Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy are not putting butts in seats. Which is why they were casted in the first place.
Yeah. And
I know we said this on Days of Future Past.
I don't think that's why they were casted, because they've never really been butts in seats.
It's pretty important who they cast for those characters, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, we mentioned this in the Days of Future Past. No, I think we mentioned this in First Class, and I'm bringing it up again because this movie was so bad that I am back to questioning if I like Michael Fassbender at all. Because we've said time and time again, great director picks bad roles.
Great actor picks bad roles.
Great actor. I don't know anymore. I really don't know.
Here's what is crazy. Because I'm like in this questioning phase with you, okay? Because we watched The Snowman for Halloween, for our Halloween special last year, which is a fun episode. You should listen to it. I'm confused about him as well, because I've had my whole theory, like you said.
At
great
this point,
actor.
The only good thing he's been in is Inglourious Basterds. For me.
And 12 Years a Slave, he's awesome in that.
He is good in that. Yeah, that's true. He needs not just a good director, a prolific one to get a good performance out of him.
Well, but I just want to say that, like, everyone, even Trevin, who I know to be a pretty intense film critic himself, he's like, oh yeah, like those new X-Men movies are so bad, but Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy are so good. It kind of makes up for a lot.
I don't know if people would think that if they rewatch any of these movies.
But yeah, I think
I'm still fine with James McAvoy.
Yeah,
he kind of can't do any wrong for me.
No, I think he's fine in the movies.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say he's great.
No,
I think he's good.
This movie's a low point in his career. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, he's coming out with Split later that year, so who cares? Yeah. But Fassbender, everyone, and even when I was going through like Letterboxd, like looking up stuff, I like to read the reviews of people I follow and stuff. And people are like, man, this, First Class, it's so bad, but Michael Fassbender carries the movie. Or it's so good, especially Michael Fassbender and stuff. And my hot take on these X-Men movies, I think definitively, for me, if you love them, I'm happy for you. I'm going to say I think Fassbender is very bad in all three of these so far.
And for that reason, I'm out.
And that is my flaming hot take. I texted Trevin that, and he was kind of like, whoa, okay.
It's like, I'm questioning it so much that I don't need some new really good performance from him to get me back on board. I need like a couple to prove it to me.
Yeah. I'm not willing necessarily to throw him out as an actor, but I am pretty willing to throw out Magneto. I don't think he's good. And
him as Magneto?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm questioning him as a whole.
But here's the other thing. In this movie, which has Oscar Isaac, one of my favorite actors, James McAvoy, one of my favorite actors, Rose Byrne, I would say one of my favorites.
Cody Smith McPhee.
There is one performance that I think is good in this movie, and that's it.
Who?
And that is Evan Peters. He is only good performance in this movie.
True.
Ty Sheridan, another actor I love.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman, an actor I love. And I am giving one good performance away, and it's Evan Peters. And it's because he rises above how bad he should be in this movie.
I know.
And his character rules.
I know.
And everyone else is not good. And see, what I think, though, is that speaks to directing.
Yeah.
Because we have Singer on Future Past, we have Singer on this movie, and then Matthew Vaughn on the first movie. And how many performances from the first movie did you and I like?
For the first movie?
First Class, I mean, the reboot.
Oh, that was pretty tough.
So I think it's a director problem and a writer problem.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Fassbender rises above the material. That's what I'm going to say.
So either.
But back to this Forbes article. So he kind of points out, this thing about like the legacy characters basically. And he said what's frustrating about watching this movie is it's trying to spend so much time with Magneto and Charles again, but it's also like not allowing enough time for us to really get attached to the young versions of other characters. So the whole movie's just kind of a mishmash, and then they just shoehorn Wolverine in at one point, and it just never lets you actually really attach to anybody.
Yeah.
And I thought, dang, that's the take. I think he's right about that. Yeah. And then my last note, that's right, Jordan. My last note is they announced this movie, and they announced that they were casting a young Jean, a young Storm, and a young Cyclops before Days of Future Past came out.
Wow.
Because I feel like when this movie started, you were kind of like, when it showed the young characters, I thought you said something like, did they run out of ideas, or are they just doing this because they have no...
What, bringing back old characters?
As young versions. I thought you had said something that implied like maybe it was a last minute decision or something like that.
Oh, I don't remember that.
But I think they'd been planning for it for a while.
Yeah.
But maybe you didn't say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that
is into my
mouth. All of the notes I have on this movie. Everything else, it's smooth sailing.
Gosh. So people just showed up, did their job, went home, and cashed their paycheck.
And as far as I know, one cinematographer on this movie.
Well, that's good. Okay, hold on.
As a reminder for you fancy listeners, X-Men First Class, if you forgot, they for some reason had 5 different cinematographers on that movie. Something I've never heard of before, haven't heard of since, and is wild. Hit me with them actors.
Sophie Turner plays Jean Grey. She is most commonly known in Game of Thrones, I'm sure. Married to a Jonas bro. She's also in The Staircase. And other stuff that I don't care about. That's how I feel at this point. Ty Sheridan plays Scott Summers. He is in Mud. Ready Player One. Joe. I forgot he was in Mud and Joe, which are like the same movie.
Which is like Joe Dirt in a way.
I've
you
not
combine
seen
their titles.
Joe. Have you?
I have. That's a David Gordon Green movie.
Whoa, cool. Which one do you like more?
I like Mud way more. I actually was not a big fan of Joe, but now that I've become more of a David Gordon Green head, I would be up to rewatch it and maybe like it.
Yeah.
More.
Cool. Did not know that.
Yeah.
And then Cody Smith-McPhee plays Nightcrawler. He is in Let Me In, one of my favorite movies ever. He's also in The Road with Viggo Mortensen. The Power of the Dog. Power of the Dog. Slow West. He's in Elvis?
Yeah. Oh. For like a scene.
All of Hollywood's probably in that movie, huh?
Well, not a scene. He's in it for like 5 minutes. Cool. He's pretty fun. He's like a singer as well.
Cool.
He's the one. It's like so cheesy, but because it's a Baz movie, it's pretty cool. It's fun. Where he's basically like, you guys heard of this new guy that's on the radio? And he pulls out like a record or something like that and starts playing it, and then it dollies in on and then Tom Hanks is like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is going to be the next guy. And then they're listening to it and they're going, wow, it sounds really good. And then Cody Smith-McPhee's like, yeah, and he's white too. And then it dollies in on Tom Hanks and he's like, he's a white boy.
Did people think that Elvis was black?
I don't think they manufactured that for the movie.
You think they manufactured that for the movie? You said?
I don't think they did.
You don't think they did?
Yeah.
So how does that answer my question?
You asked if people thought he was black.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think they made that up for the movie.
So that would be a yes.
Yes, I think so.
Sorry, that just answered it in a way that wrinkled my brain. Ben Hardy plays Angel. He is in Bohemian Rhapsody, 6 Underground, Only the Brave.
Yeah. So, folks, we not only have a series that has a character named Angel in it, and then later a character named Angel, played by Zoe Kravitz, that's not the same Angel, and then in Deadpool, a character named Angel Dust, that is not one of those three characters. We now have a fourth Angel, and I'm not sure. It's like, is this another one, or is it the Angel that was in The Last Stand? I don't know.
Me neither.
Big upgrade. Oh, yeah, you got metal wings.
Can you get Gilmore's tennis ball out from under your chair? I think he's confused.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Keep talking.
Alexandra Shipp plays young Ororo. She is also in Love, Simon, Shaft, Tick, Tick, Boom, Father of the Bride. Not the original. Wait, what is that? Oh, part 3-ish. Whatever. And then Olivia Munn plays Psylocke. Man, I felt most bad for her in this movie. Her outfit looked unwearable.
Yeah.
Like, so uncomfortable, chafing like crazy.
They're pulling out the baby powder to get her in and out of that, probably.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Isn't that what they use to...
Yeah, I mean, that's something that has been used, for that. She's also in The Newsroom, The Daily Show.
Yeah.
Office Christmas Party.
She started out as a personality and has come into acting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She was on Attack of the Show, I think, which was an interview thing, I think.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
And that pretty much completes it.
Have we talked about Oscar Isaac? I think we have.
We've talked Star Wars, we have.
Yeah, we definitely have. Okay.
So my first complaint with this movie is you took okay, wait, have you read this comic?
I have not.
Have you looked up any pictures of this comic?
Yes.
I'm assuming the way that he looks, this characters have looks like
they
weird.
did a pretty decent job of looking like he looks in the comic.
That being said,
yeah, I'm not going to disagree with what you're going to say.
The mistake is they took the beautiful Oscar Isaac and hid him underneath all of that crap.
And you are going to find that in probably every review of this movie. This is across the board. Everyone is
other people are saying
everyone
too?
Is like, why would you hire Oscar Isaac and bury him? It makes no sense.
Oh, that makes me feel so validated.
No. Everybody, this is if you hear people talking about this movie, it's always yeah, what a wasted performance.
Absolutely.
And I think also everyone knows how good he is.
Yeah.
And to see him, as one reviewer put it, do the most uncool things in the world, put his hands up to a TV and go, learning. Yikes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he looks so bad. It's crazy. And it looks...
And talk about the hair.
His hair?
Yeah.
He doesn't have hair. Well, they took away the hair.
They took away
his beautiful
head of hair.
Locks.
Yes.
And his makeup too. It looks like a lot of it's painted on. It's actual face part of it looks bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It just doesn't even look good. It doesn't look cool. The colors are just so muted.
You know what? This is gonna sound nutso. Because this is not what I would typically say. But I think because when I looked at the design of the comic book character, I was like, oh, yeah, that is how he looks. I think this is a case, and I can't believe I'm going to advocate for this, where they should have used performance capture and done a Thanos performance. Because I'm thinking about Thanos.
Wait, what's this character's name?
Apocalypse. I'm thinking about Thanos. And he looks so good. And he looks like Josh Brolin, but there isn't this weird, how come they don't have Josh Brolin? Because it's not his face, even though it kind of is.
Yeah.
And they're trying to accomplish that with makeup, and it does not work.
Oh, and he's way bigger, too.
Yeah, so you could have made him bigger and all of that. Now, the technology's not quite as advanced as it will be when a movie like Infinity War comes out in 2019, but we're close. And I can't believe I'm going to say that, but I think maybe that's the move.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Looking at the comic book character, because the cool thing with Thanos that they did is he is huge. They didn't keep him Josh Brolin height or something.
No, he's I'm 9 feet tall or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't think I've even ever looked up the comic version of him, but I'm sure that's what he looks like.
He looks like that,
and that's his size. I'm looking at this comic book character. He looks like a cyborg Hulk or something.
Sure, yeah.
And that's just what they should have done.
But it's like they did
They tried,
do
but he
that.
just looks emaciated.
Yeah.
And gross. He looks bad.
Yeah.
He doesn't look mighty like the comic book version. And then the next thing I got an issue with is they got Cody Smith McPhee. Love him. Love that kid. And they cast him as the best X-Men character.
We were waiting for this. I knew there'd be at least one thing we'd love about the movie, right?
Yeah, Nightcrawler. So it was like, cool, they're finally bringing Nightcrawler back. Not only that, they casted someone I love.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he looks so bad. He looks so bad. And I know we're in the 80s. I know that did they have fun with the 80s on costume in this movie? Probably a little too much fun, because they were probably like, oh, what kind of kid would Nightcrawler be in the 80s? Oh, he'd totally be emo. So we have to give him big, thick, side-swept bangs.
But they don't like I'm thinking about Wonder Woman 1984, and that movie is like fictionalized pop culture, only the malls of America in commercials movie. And I love how that movie looks, and I love like all the costumes in that, because it's like over the top. And this movie doesn't go all the way. It kind of goes halfway, and it's like maybe either scale it back or go all the way and make everybody like ultra 80s looking.
Yeah, he looks so bad. Oh my gosh. I felt bad for him.
Yeah, so
I said while we're watching the movie, I am mad at Oscar Isaac for a while, and I am a little mad at Cody Smith too.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think brings up a great discussion here. We have been really focusing a lot on hair in this franchise because of Wolverine, and we've been tracking the hair growth and the hair progress. I think we just need to do a hair round out. And as someone who doesn't pay attention to these kinds of things all that often, it was screaming at me the hair issues in this movie. So we have Oscar Isaac. We talked about that.
Yeah.
We got Cody Smith McPhee. We talked about it. The hair is so bad that he looks bad. Now, we have someone else named Storm in this movie. Aurora, if you will. And I just want to say how stupid this element is. She has her storm powers. She's got a cool mohawk. I'm cool with the mohawk. Yeah, let's go. But she only gets the white in her hair when Apocalypse gives her more powers and heightens her mutant ability. And that's when she gets
We all needed to know why she had white hair. As if...
What the hell are we doing here?
She's just some storm character that has storm powers, and her having hair like a cloud isn't enough for us.
No, we need an origin for that.
Unbelievable. And then they could take it a step further.
No. We're saving that for last.
Oh, okay.
Because then we have Wolverine.
Yeah.
His hair doesn't look like Wolverine. And I know he's supposed to be all weird. You know, he's supposed to be like
a Hulk. He's supposed to be Hulk in this movie. This is his Hulk take.
Yeah, but okay.
It's just because of what they put him in and everything.
Oh yeah, because he has those like Bruce
He's just
Banner.
Wearing ripped shorts.
Yeah, and the electronic stuff they put on him, I'm like, no. It looks terrible. I don't
even understand what it was doing.
Yeah. And then we have I'm scrolling on my notes here, and I'm making sure I'm not missing any, because we also have Alex Summers, Havoc, who has the mullet from his MacGyver performance, and it looks crazy bad. I mean, crazy. That's a wig, right?
I don't know, and I think this kid had to have been doing MacGyver by this point.
Man.
And I'm probably wrong, and I don't want to look it up.
Yeah, it's insane how bad it is.
Yeah.
And then it looks like McAvoy is wearing a wig for a lot of the movie, I think.
Okay.
The long, luscious hair. But then the movie goes and says, hey, let's make an origin story. X-Men Origins, male pattern baldness. No. Professor X can't just get male pattern baldness and lose his hair and decide to shave his head. He has to be in a mental battle with Apocalypse that causes his hair to not fall out, disintegrate, folks. Not his eyebrows, not his body hair. No, just his head.
Is this in the comics?
I hope it is not. Because that is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in a movie.
No one's asking why he's bald.
I know. What is this obsession in superhero movies where it's like, Okay, we got to explain why he's bald. Oh, he wore a blue shirt in the first movie. We got to explain why he bought that blue shirt. It's like, you live life. Things happen to you. I have eczema. Do we need an origin story on why I got eczema, where some thug beat me up in an alley and left me for dead and I contracted eczema or something?
Wow, it must be really hard for you to talk about this.
Well, you know what? As a bald man myself, I must say, how disrespectful, you sons of bitches. Yeah, so that's the hair thing, and we haven't even talked about the story.
I know. We don't have to, do we?
Yeah, I think we could just talk about Knives Out.
Okay.
And I'm talking about the first one. Just talk about Knives Out again.
Okay.
Which we've already done on our Patreon. Patreon.com/Micah McCaw. Where you can get extra episodes.
Yeah, just go listen to
that. Okay, but here we go. The movie begins. We're in the BC era of the world.
3600, I think.
Sounds right, yeah.
We're in Egypt. We're in the Nile Valley. And a ritual is to be performed on some gross-looking dude, which is Oscar Isaac, or no, he becomes, I don't know. Through the pyramid, there's all these slaves around doing work. And as this ritual is happening, they're transferring one person's consciousness to the other. The slaves revolt and are trying to break it, trying to stop them. And it was, I mean, this is first scene of the movie, and I just already was thinking, like, it looks this bad already.
I had a note right at the beginning that says effects are sort of crazy bad.
Crazy bad.
I mean, I think genuinely X-Men 1 looks better. The effects are better in that movie.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's abysmal. This is abysmal. And
there is something cool though where somebody slams some people against.
I liked this. Yeah, what you're saying is that this guy has like a mutant power where he just claps, and he like clapped so forcefully that it ripped the skin and tissue off of two people.
And they like slap against the wall.
That was cool.
Yeah.
We can say positive things.
We don't have to, but we can.
But then, so there's this, as this is happening, there's like this lady there protecting them and is like kind of kickstarting this ritual. And I just thought it was so funny that we're at 3600 BC and we have this blonde lady here in Egypt.
Well, you know what? Apocalypse probably gave her the blonde hair by touching her and giving her power.
Whatever. It is so, it's just like, the reason why it gets me is because they're like, you can tell that they're trying to make it like this is Egypt. This is ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
All these people here are Egyptian or whatever because like within this proximity of this area.
Middle Eastern and African.
Yeah, because they have slaves. They're like, yeah. But they're just going to throw in a random blonde lady in there. It doesn't work for me. That doesn't fly. That's why it gets me.
Yeah. But it's just a nonsense scene. I mean, the action is horrendous.
Yeah.
The effects are horrendous. And I was kind of like, oh no, this is going to be as bad as I heard this movie was.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like pretty immediately I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
And then Bryan Singer does his thing that he's obsessed with. And I'm starting to think like this must be in all of his movies, right? Where it's like a tunnel where it's like animated sequences as we're like flying through stuff, and it's a tunnel of time this time.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're flying through this tunnel and seeing time progress,
showing us that time is linear when the last movie proved that it wasn't.
And then it ends, of course, on the X-Men door to Cerebro, and I'm like, I don't think like that's something you have to have in an X-Men movie is opening with the X-Men door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that's like comes with the territory. You got to do that. But here's what's frustrating. So the movie's beginning, and we had seen this apocalypse guy, and we're seeing mutants. And in my head, I'm like, my imagination is going wild, and I'm like, oh, this is so interesting.
Yeah.
The idea that a mutant back then, without the scientific knowledge we have now, would be perceived as a god.
Yeah.
And then the idea of like imposing your will in that regard. and then the way it would get like lost in time. Like, oh my gosh. And already I was like, oh, they're not delivering on that. They should have delivered on that.
They even say it at some point, though.
Yeah.
But no, they don't. It's not as cool as it should be.
Yeah. And so we tunnel through time, and then we meet Cyclops, who is at school as he
developed his mutant gene is activated.
Yeah.
On this day, and he is Cyclops. Cyclops is born.
Right.
And he's taken to...
Did you wink at my girl? Classic.
Yeah.
Don't wink at girls.
He's taken to... Okay, so his brother is Havoc, which I missed that, but that's a me problem. I mean, I think at that point I'd fallen off.
Yeah. Early.
Yeah, pretty early. It just sucks when a movie's this bad, you at least hope it starts strong.
Yeah.
Then this one didn't even start strong. So his brother takes him to the X-Men school.
Yeah.
And he runs into Jean, literally.
And when he ran into Jean, this is when I wrote the note fully out on movie. There's a couple things that happened before that we have to go back to, but yeah, when he runs into Jean and it goes slow motion and she catches all of her papers, I was like, this movie can get out of town.
You know what they've never achieved in this entire series for me? There's absolutely no chemistry between Scott and Jean ever.
Yeah.
And I know it's all about Wolverine being in love with her. And she's definitely in love with him too, even when she's married to Scott.
Yeah.
But they don't even at no point in any of the movies, they try to give them chemistry for me.
Yeah.
And
they do try in this one, but
they have another try in this one, and no, they have no chemistry in this movie.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen Sophie Turner, was her name?
Yeah.
In a movie. Not impressed. Not looking forward to the next one where she is the focal point.
Yeah. But at least Simon Kinberg gets to do Dark Phoenix another time.
Yeah.
So we can jump around. It's our podcast and our fancy friends love it. Here's something I was just thinking about while we were watching the movie. So this movie is setting up Dark Phoenix again. And if you forgot what that was, it's the idea that Phoenix has all this great power and there's like this dark power inside of her and it will overcome her one day and kind of turn her evil. And it could be the end of the universe. And it's regarded as one of the greatest storylines in Marvel history. What I find odd is, movies get remade all the time. And I don't think remakes are bad. But I do think remaking stuff in comic book franchise filmmaking is odd.
Mm-hmm.
Because this movie has it has scenes where it's hinting at Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, is anyone in the audience like thinking that there's tension here? Because we already saw this happen in another movie. We know you're setting that up.
Uncle Ben die 15 times. Why do we need to see that?
Yeah. Well, they didn't do that anymore.
Yeah, but they did in the Andrew Garfield one, and that felt like 30 times too many by that point.
Yeah. That one, to me, that's a little bit of a different situation because it's hard to tell a Spider-Man story without the core of why he is Spider-Man.
But Micah, they did it.
Yeah, but they had to fully embrace him as Spider-Man. They had to make Aunt May Uncle Ben,
Well, yeah.
And I think they did that well, and that was an interesting adaptation of that idea. But it's just odd to be setting it up,
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've had like repeat villains and we've had repeat heroes before, but am I wrong in thinking that we haven't had like a remake in this regard where it's like, no, we're gonna do that same story again?
Yeah.
And we're gonna set it up like you don't know that this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other story that's done that.
Not off the top of my head, because I mean, which is what you said, like we've had same villains in other movies, but it's always a different story.
Yeah,
like Green Goblin.
And usually it's told differently. You know, like Venom was in Spider-Man 3, and then Venom has his own movie, and those movies share they're different takes on the character for sure. It's very odd, and Norman Osborn being in the newest Spider-Man movie is like a continuation of his character if he hadn't died. So it's like that's not really remaking that character. Yeah. I mean, I suppose someday if the MCU ever, bows out, they will probably relaunch it and do it again.
Yeah.
To some degree. But yeah, it's just odd because every time they're hinting at Phoenix throughout this movie, I was like, yeah, we know. Not interesting. Like, tell something else with her story.
I'm glad. I thought they were going to hit it harder than they did.
Yeah. But they do in the movie with whoa, she has this huge great power.
Yeah, they do. But
you're like, yeah.
I thought that was going to be every scene that she was in. It's reminding us.
Right.
Of that.
So anyway,
while this
that's
is happening,
my little rant.
Mystique is doing stuff.
Yeah, and this could have been the whole movie on its own. Again, she's out there trying to save mutants and give them hope. Because there's there's all this anti-mutant stuff. Cool. But the movie's kind of we're going to talk about that a couple of times, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. That's half of this movie is it's hey, let's explore this. Let's explore that. But we're only going to do it in 10 minutes total.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that because most of the movies have been about that. And this one's finally not.
No. What I'm saying is the idea of her going around being a freedom fighter for mutants is a great idea.
Yeah.
Either change the idea or give it more than 10 minutes of screen time.
Oh, okay.
The idea of Charles and Magneto, once again, doing their thing. Either change the idea or make it the crux of the movie. Apocalypse. Change it or make it the crux of the movie.
Yeah.
Because Apocalypse honestly felt like he was a side character. There were sections of this movie where it was I don't even remember who the villain is. What are we doing here?
So that's what Mystique is doing is she's going around getting mutants.
Yeah, and rescuing them from situations they're stuck in.
Oh, okay. Jennifer Lawrence looked so bored in this movie, and she's hardly Mystique. You made a joke about that's probably in her contract in this movie to not get in makeup that often. I mean, she's really not Mystique that much.
Yeah, no, and when I'm not making a joke. I think that she probably was you know what? I've been nominated a few times now, and I am done with this franchise, and I don't want to sit in makeup for 4 hours a day. So you need to write it differently.
And when she was in makeup, it looked really bad. This is the worst she's ever looked.
I don't think she was in makeup ever.
That's an interesting point. That might be true. I also wonder. Well, I feel like they just did a rush job.
Yeah.
But then also I wonder if something with the color correcting made her look way bluer than she's ever looked. It made her look so fake.
Well, I think they did a digital touch up on her face and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think she was ever in full makeup for this movie. And you know what I say to that? I say good for you. If I was on a movie with Bryan Singer, I wouldn't want to strip down naked and have him put makeup on my whole body for hours. So I say good for her. Yeah, but she's clearly, it's that thing that happens sometimes, and you see it where someone is in a franchise and they have a contractual obligation, but they've made it so big as an actor that they don't have to do it anymore.
And you know what? This might be so wrong because no one is. She's not going to be remembered for being in the X-Men movies.
No.
So X-Men didn't do anything for her.
No. So you can just tell she's I could be working with David O. Russell for the 30th time instead.
Well, maybe she shouldn't do that.
But I know. She's I could be working on the prequel to Hunger Games that the Macabre Podcast universe will be covering later this year.
She's not in that, is she?
I would hope not, because it takes place hundreds of years before.
Oh.
I think Jordan's going to quit the podcast this year. She's hit her ceiling. Yeah, so, and there's this fight with Angel versus Nightcrawler, and it's not good.
It's fine. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. She busts him out.
Yeah. And so now I want to talk about Magneto.
Okay.
And I'm just going to kind of go through his thing for a little bit. Magneto is at a steel factory.
In Poland.
I like the irony there. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm a sucker for a little irony when it comes to powers. And so he's just working. He's keeping his head low. He was in the news from the last movie, so people know who he is, and he's got to keep a low profile. And
so by the end of the last movie, he's the bad guy. Mystique is the good guy. Because all the not to the humans, but all the mutants are like, "You're my hero" to Mystique.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then so he's at the steel factory, and then like a smelt oven thing is about to fall on somebody.
Well, this doesn't happen.
No, I'm just kind of going through his story, and then he stops it.
Yeah.
And so, but someone sees him. He thought he got away with it. Someone sees him. We see he has a family. He has a daughter, and he's been living his life. And then they like take him out to the woods, and they go
the police.
Yeah, they have his. Well, actually, I thought. Oh yeah, it was police. Yeah, they have like all wooden weapons, just bows and arrows, and they know who he is, and they're like, we're gonna kill your family if you don't give yourself up.
I don't think they ever said that.
Well, they have him like hostage. That's how they lure him out there, right?
The
daughter. Yeah. And then we have such a stupid scene, folks. It's another stupid one where the daughter, like, he decides to. I think he's just like, stop. And the daughter comes rushing over.
Well, he's like, if you let my daughter go, I'll go with you.
Yeah, and the daughter has powers, and this is what it is. And these birds start like cawing.
She can like control animals or command them.
And so they're like flying around, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." And then one of the cops looks up in the sky, surprised, and he accidentally lets loose his bow, and it goes into the daughter, through her into the mother, and kills them both instantly. Mm-hmm. A wooden blunt arrow. Now,
okay, Micah, you didn't know how blunt it was.
I'm just saying that I don't need superhero movies to be realistic, but I don't understand why you would make this decision. Yeah, it should be a deliberate choice.
Why does he have to lose everything?
Because they don't know how to write him any differently. That's why. I
guess he has to lose something every time to motivate him to do anything.
Yeah,
it's so dumb.
Yeah, it's not like they go like top of my head in this moment. They fight Apocalypse. They lose, and then they regroup, and they're like, "There's only one man that can help us," and they go and find Magneto, and he's got a family, and they're like, "Dude." He goes, I got my family. I'm not going to help. And they go, but you won't have a family by the end of tomorrow if you don't fight. And then he comes and fights with them.
Yeah.
That's already better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tired and we've seen it before, but it's like that is better than this. Because the thing I would argue.
But also, like, why can't he just be a steel worker, keeping a low profile, not have a wife and a daughter, and Apocalypse comes to him anyway? And says all that stuff, and is like, we're basically we're superior, and we're taking it over, which is kind of what they do in all of them. But it's Magneto's thing. So
yeah,
he's like,
true.
They came and got me. No one has to die in that scenario. He doesn't have to lose anything for that to happen.
You guys can hire Jordan. She can do rewrites on these things.
I don't want to work with these people.
No. But I'm just saying, in the future, it's going to be new X-Men people. Believe me, they're not going to have Simon Kinberg again. I would hope not. Yeah, but the other thing is, like, on a practical level, if you're making a movie, just make the person make the choice and make it something that's actually impending and doomful.
Yeah.
Not he accidentally lets go of his wooden arrow. That looks flimsy. Make it look not flimsy. Mm-hmm. Have a close-up on the sharpness of it and maybe let them breathe a little bit, because I feel like I know we don't need realism all the way in superhero movies, but it's like when I saw that bow and arrow, I'm like, I'm pretty sure if that happened, I could go to the hospital and I'd be fine. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it went through both of their bodies is so insane
that's like
to
the
me.
cherry on top.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh. So things like that just don't just make it so that it was inescapable.
Just stop it. Stop.
You hear us? We have 4 more to watch, Jordan.
Oh my gosh. How are there 4 more?
Well, we got Deadpool 2, we got Logan, New Mutants, and Dark Phoenix.
Oh my gosh.
But it's okay. I think we're gonna. I think once we get done with Logan, I think we're gonna watch. I think we're gonna watch a new series and record it, and then go back. The audience, it won't change their schedule, but I think we need a little break. We might have to watch 1 or 2 of another series. But we got Logan to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
So Moira is out here and she's looking in the desert and stumbles across them rebirthing, resurrecting Apocalypse.
This character is completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Completely.
As are most in this movie. And Charles
I hated this. I hated that she crawled down this hole and there's a group of men already down there chanting and praying to the pyramid. And she's just simply on the other side of the pyramid and witnesses this whole thing that happens.
That's what I like to call a wooden arrow incident.
Yeah.
Very coincidental. And then, she gets out and everyone senses this big... I also like how, like, the government now is like, oh my gosh, we had the biggest... psychotic, not psychotic, but like psi event happen in Egypt the other day, and it's like, oh, you can measure these now? What are you talking about?
What's a psi event?
Like mind powered event.
Okay.
Because they don't say like, oh, there was an earthquake in Egypt. They mention it being like tied to like a mutant seismic thing.
Who's saying that? The government?
The government says that. Oh. And then Hank McCoy says it as well.
Who's Hank McCoy?
That's Beast. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, someone who has nothing to do with this movie.
So anyway, Charles is like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to Moira. And he goes, oh, but I deleted all of her memories and she's so hot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where they try to get out all their jokes in this movie. And do they even kiss in this movie?
I don't know.
I don't think they even kiss.
He doesn't give her memories back until the end of the movie.
Yeah, maybe they kiss at the end, but it's like a cry kiss.
Who cares? I don't need him to fall in love.
But if you're going to have him fall in love, give us a kissy. Give us a nice kissy. Oh, and I did write this, Moira in Egypt. I said, MCU has tons of issues and stuff, but I said it's moments like this when you really appreciate how delicately the MCU has balanced their characters and casted so well.
Yeah.
Because there are times when I care about things that if it was a different actor or if it was not crafted the way it was crafted, even if it's like, it's just these movies are the example where it's like this story. I've seen movies like this in the MCU, and yet those movies are just better because they're just a little bit, the scripts are a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And the actors are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I forgive some of the like mediocreness of some of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
It's times like these two when I think like, oh, maybe I don't give the MCU enough credit because you can see how quickly it goes wrong. Like Kevin Feige really is gluing and holding it all together, I also wrote, I'm so impressed by the PS2 graphics.
Yeah.
We already talked about that. Finds Moira.
Okay, so Charles and Nicholas Hoult go to Moira to the CIA, and yeah, he wiped her memories, but because he can control minds, he just says that we have a level 5 clearance, and she just shows them everything.
Yeah.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
Again, completely unnecessary. But this is when she gets into way back then. People. Okay, so they thought that mutants only started coming out in the 20th century.
Coming out.
We
have a new mutant drop.
Like they started, like they were a new thing in the 20th century. They have since found evidence that there were mutants.
Yeah,
thousands of years ago.
And we all knew they came from the 20th century, Jordan, because Kevin Bacon said in First Class, we are the sons and daughters of radiation. Remember that moment?
Nope. So she says back then there might have been some mutants, and it makes sense that people would regard them as gods. And I mean, it's like that should be the most exciting concept of this movie.
Yeah.
And I barely remember her saying that.
Yeah. And she talks about how he always has 4 horsemen, like 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And one of them says like, oh, like the Bible. And she goes, or maybe the Bible got it from him.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so clever. And it's around.
This movie is so, like, I was expecting this to be like biblical, like,
yeah,
more like apocalypse heavy, I guess, for lack of a better word. Nah, not at all.
No. And it's so when he touched the TV, you know, and he starts learning, he happens to just like only learn like the news and the history of the world. And I just thought it would be funny if maybe that TV only got one channel and it was like only doing reruns of Happy Days or something. So like the rest of the movie, he's just like going around like hitting jukeboxes to get music to start. And he's like, hey, you know, like being Fonzie. And that's his whole personality. And that's what he thinks the world is, this 50s diner.
That would be great. That'd be funny.
Or like Leave It to Beaver or something like that.
What are his powers? He can like absorb other people's powers?
He absorbs others and then he can do that power.
And then, then he can also enhance others.
Yeah.
So because he does enhance
I just feel like they don't really have any fun with that.
No. Just no.
I mean, because I didn't really understand what he had until someone just blatantly told me, which I think is bad storytelling. And then it just was like, he never really did anything that interesting. Like, he just put people in walls. That was his big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was cool when they had the fight in their mind, which we'll talk about. I liked when he got big in the mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, though, is crazy is that I said, near the beginning, I wrote, I can't believe that we have to listen to this voice for a full movie.
Real bad choice. Real bad.
An incredibly bad choice.
Yeah.
It is like one of the worst voice choice. I mean, that's where I'm like, okay, I think Oscar, you got a little bit to blame here. Because this is a bad choice of voice. Bad choice voice.
It's a bad choice voice.
So then he starts recruiting his new 4 horsemen. He gets Storm. He goes and gets Angel. He upgrades Angel from having real white wings to metal wings.
Boring.
They look bad. And it's also like, so you took away how cool he looked and made him look not cool.
Yeah. I also
Interesting
just don't
choice.
Well, I guess if he's just enhancing powers, I'm assuming he doesn't know how they will be enhanced. But at the same time, I think he does know. And it's like, this guy from 3600 BC, like, knows to do this.
Yeah.
And to make them like metal and mechanical and bionic.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm not buying
it was because he was learning.
Yeah, that's true. And then we get Sword Girl.
Psylocke, I think is her name. Which they don't even say in the movie.
And I just thought it was funny, and this is probably a comic book thing, but she carries a samurai sword, but she also can generate like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
What's the need for the samurai sword? I didn't really get that ever. But it seemed like her enlightened powers was giving her some purple hair. And he gave her
purple hair. She didn't have purple hair before he met her. Are you kidding me?
She got that terrible outfit. He designed. They showed us. He personally designed everyone's outfit.
Well, and that was a weird scene because it was like 30 minutes, and he didn't just like give it to her. He was at like the seamstress like sewing this whole thing, and it had the plans. And it was very like Phantom Thread kind of a thing. He's cutting the material. A lot of care goes into it, and then, you know, he gives it to her. They also show up to Magneto to try and recruit him, and Magneto says, "Who the F are you?" And I didn't care. I didn't think it was a good F word usage.
Yeah.
The X-Men movies have killed their X-Men usage, and this one I was like, nah.
Yeah.
And he's about to kill everybody that killed his family. Huh? Killed his family with that small wooden arrow.
Oh yeah.
And Apocalypse just puts them in the ground instantly, and he's like, "Hey, you want to join me?"
I thought that looked cool, and it should have been scary.
Yeah, it was so
all the limbs are like twitching in the cement.
But it's such like poorly directed because
I know.
I like that idea, but Magneto's not even like, you took that from me. I wanted my revenge. He's like, oh, okay, cool. All right. Let's work on this. And then Apocalypse is like
again, and I know I already said this, why does he again need to get angry at humans when the last movie showed that like continues to be justified in his beliefs?
Yeah.
Why does he need to be angered again?
I don't know.
We don't need to be reminded of this. This is all his character has ever been.
And I don't want to blow past this. Apocalypse is like, there, I took care of him. And even him, it's like, that could be played as like a big evil villain moment. And he's like, I took care of them. Okay, do you want to join the team? And he's like, yeah, I do. And he's like, okay, here's the contracts. Here's our W-2.
Here's your team jersey.
Yeah. And he makes him a helmet. And he takes him to Auschwitz so that he can get so angry that he can control the Earth now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess that's something you needed to do. And then Quicksilver. We get to talk about Quicksilver.
Okay.
I don't like his storyline in the movie. I know that Magneto is his father. It feels so shoehorned, and it's like we have to worry about that in this movie too. And even by the end of the movie, you're like, oh, cool. It's one of those things that like they're going to talk about in a future movie.
There's just no time. There's no time for this in this movie, especially by the time we get to him.
Yeah, and this is the longest X-Men movie so far.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I know that I think all the rest are under 2 hours, except maybe Logan.
Okay.
Because I think Dark Phoenix is like 140, maybe.
Awesome.
It might be less.
Back to basics with these guys.
And I think New Mutants is like 130.
Oh, make it a 125, I'm sure.
Yeah, we could have covered it on 90 Under 90. I hope that it's like that. But yeah, so what the heck was I talking about? Quicksilver. He's cool, and he is so good in these movies that he rises above it. And after watching it, I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense that they were like, okay, when we do WandaVision, we got to have him. We got to bring him into this movie. Because when I'm watching it, I'm like, he is so likable, and he is the one person I would say that when they do bring the X-Men into Marvel, I'm like, is there a way you can get him that makes sense and not get everyone else and do other recasts? So I think you have to go clean slate.
Yeah.
Without it getting messy.
I think so too.
But it's like he's that good in 2 really bad movies that I'm like, it's a bummer that he didn't get a good movie.
Yeah.
You're welcome on the pod anytime. But he does have the best scene in the movie again.
Yeah, so he goes to the X-Men school, and what happens right when he gets there? I mean, I know something explodes, but why does it explode?
Well, they go into Cerebro.
Oh, gosh. Another time where just another example of I don't understand how Cerebro works, because in one movie Professor X will be using it and no one sees what he sees, and then in another movie like this one he's using it and everyone sees what he sees. I don't get it. And in the scene like the Beast created this room, or he like redid it or something, and he basically said he made it blue because of Mystique.
Yeah.
And it was like,
why do we need that origin?
I had a loss for words on that one.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it like Apocalypse, like controls, he gets into Xavier's mind, and then an explosion happens because Havoc has to turn off the machine.
Oh yeah. Cause throughout this movie, Havoc like releases all missiles throughout the world. And
Apocalypse does. Havoc doesn't.
That's what I meant. Apocalypse. He releases all of the missiles, and it just keeps cutting to the war room. That we've seen a couple times in the X-Men movies, and it's so funny because it's just all these suits in a war room, and they're doing absolutely nothing.
And then meanwhile, like Scott and Jean and someone else, they go and they see Return of the Jedi, and they walk out of the theater, and they all have the contemporary thoughts about Star Wars.
I can't get it.
No, but I just want to say that one of them says, you can never beat the original. Listen to our podcast, dumbass. The other one says like, no, The Empire Strikes is better because it's darker. And then the other person, and mind you, this is the third movie in this like proto trilogy, says, well, we can all agree that the third one is never as good as the rest and kind of sucks. And I'm like, it's a cute joke.
Can you have that opinion in the 80s?
Yeah, well, yeah. First of all, I don't think that opinion is prevalent. But second of all, it's like, this movie does suck, so don't point it out to us.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me think you knew that this movie sucked because you put that joke in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, school's blowing up, though. Those dudes show up while it's happening, as well as Evan Peters shows up, and we get, like you said, the cool scene of him going throughout the school, saving people, and that slow-mo thing again.
Yeah, and I said, Quicksilver steals the entire movie, and he rules and is seen as the best, and it makes the whole movie and everyone else suck except him.
Word.
Yeah.
Ditto. I think we said it.
but it is a great scene, and there's a pug in it, and that's fun.
Pug eating pizza. Pug.
Pizza pug.
Pizza pug party.
It's a moment in the movie where you're like, am I watching a different movie? Because this is amazing. And then it's over.
And then we resume the normal movie.
Yeah.
So school's blown up, but everyone's saved. Besides Havoc, he's dead. Did us all a favor if you ask me.
Yeah, but again, it's kind of like Scott Summers' death, where they're like,
we don't see it.
We don't see it, and they're like, oh, that's too bad.
I know, seriously. It's
like, oh, okay,
bad.
Kind of a major minor character.
Yeah,
you're okay with just
and then
dying.
Stryker shows up and knocks out everybody.
Yeah,
and collects the mutants he wants, which of course it's our main crew.
Yeah.
Just so like what?
Yeah, he's been absent this whole movie.
Yeah.
And then Jean Grey like gets Nightcrawler and Scott, and she uses her powers to hide them, and they sneak onto the helicopter.
No, Nightcrawler gets them in.
Oh, bamfs them?
Yeah.
But she's still like using power to keep them hidden.
Throughout this time, though, she's using her powers. Yeah. So yeah.
And then meanwhile, what's his face? Blue makeup boy. He takes Charles into what looks like a set from the 1960s Star Trek show. And they're just sitting there.
They're like overlooking Egypt, I'm assuming.
But it looks
or the Nile or something.
Bad.
Looks so bad.
And he says, tell all the mutants what's about to go down. Everyone has believed in false gods, and they worship their Palm Pilots and their blackberries. And then Charles is telling everybody that, but then he's also giving Jean a secret message that's like, Jean,
help me.
Help me. You are my only hope.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get to Stryker Base. They are then... nonsense fighting occurs. They let out Weapon X. Who's that? The guy that we've seen turn into Weapon X 3 times now? Yeah, it's Wolverine again. Looks really bad. He kills everybody. It's clearly the moment where they're like, if we've lost anybody, we got him back on now.
And then you said that someone pointed this out. Okay, so at the end of the last movie, we see that Stryker got Wolverine out of the lake. So this explains why Stryker would have him in his possession. But then you read, I think it was like someone's review or something, and they reminded everyone that it was actually Mystique who did it, posing as Stryker.
Because it's got like the yellow eyes or whatever, and she like winks or something like that, and it's like she got Weapon X out. So by the logic of this movie, she's saving mutants, and she's like, okay, I got Wolverine. I'm going to put him in this base and then let Stryker take over and experiment on him.
What is the contraption on him? What is it doing?
It is looking like one of the dumbest contraptions I've ever seen.
Okay,
that's all I know.
Because it's not subduing his powers.
No,
he goes rogue on everybody.
He goes beast on everybody.
Yeah,
nope, not that one either.
And then so he does all that, and then he's going to escape, but Jean like takes the stuff off of him, and that's just a weird one to think about for me. But she takes the stuff off of him, and then he just like runs away into the woods.
Yeah.
He doesn't say a single line.
No.
Like such an animal.
Yeah.
I wonder how much he got paid.
Oh, yeah.
I just hope he was well compensated.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. I hope he got paid $38 million. No, I mean, what? 5? No, that's a lot.
I don't know.
2?
I don't know.
Probably $2 million to do that. Wow, could you imagine? I could sure use being in a movie as Wolverine to get $2 million and then be done. So, least Wolverine hair. Apocalypse is virtually absent from most of this movie. I don't dig Magneto being an underling to Apocalypse.
No.
At least they're trying to do something else, but which they don't do anything with. And then they all converge on Egypt now at this point.
Yep.
And they have this battle that there was enough of it that was going on that I was so numb to this movie that I was like, am I doing a bad job as someone who has to do a podcast now? Because I'm like not even seeing the images that are going across me.
Okay, but what I do know was happening.
And I did answer some text too, which I don't usually do.
Micah.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah, and I looked up a couple of IMDb things about the movie while we were watching it.
Hey, I won't tell if you don't. So.
Oh no, is this recording?
Apocalypse is taking Xavier. Xavier's gonna be his new conduit, like his new.
Yeah, his new
transference
body.
thing. So that's what's happening, and the X-Men are trying to stop.
And it's really poorly choreographed action.
It is.
And then Angel just kind of dies unceremoniously, and it's kind of weird because it's like, oh, so he's just never gonna become an X-Men?
He does die?
I'm pretty sure he dies. He gets like smashed by something.
Okay.
And then Mystique tries to kill Oscar. And then they go into the Oscar brain fight.
Okay.
This, I think, is cool. Where it's Charles Xavier. He's in the X-Mansion, and he's like, you may be able to take everyone else on, but you've never taken on me like this. And they start fighting, and he's like beating Apocalypse down. And then Apocalypse literally grows and gets big in the mansion. And he's like trying to smash him. Big Apocalypse, little Charles. I like that. I think that's cool. I'm like, where is this and the Quicksilver scene? Those people that were working on those, why didn't they make this movie?
Yeah, right.
And then he's like, and I like this too. He's like, Jean, you're the only one who can save me. Unleash everything.
Yeah.
And so she's like,
Okay, stop.
Gilmore's like, what is going on in here? So that's what happens, and she is able to kill him and disintegrate him. And he doesn't even do anything to her hair, which kind of pissed me off.
It pissed me right off.
I wish that when she killed him, it just cut back to her and she had like a bob cut. and it's just like, oh, Apocalypse affected one last hairdo.
That's his calling card.
Yeah. You have the biggest bad guy, apparently, is what they're trying to tell us, and his thing is he changes people's hair. He just wants to be a hairdresser. He wants to make costumes and be a hairdresser.
He's just a real Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
No one understands him.
Rebecca, I know you're listening. Can you text me and let me know which haircut, since you're a hairdresser, is the worst of what's in this movie? What is the most appalling as a hairdresser cut you have in this? I'm assuming it's Nightcrawler.
That would be my choice.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of great candidates. Yeah, so they kill him, and then Xavier's like, let me give Moira back her memories. He gives them to her. Storm goes to Quicksilver. Oh, yeah. So Storm goes up to Quicksilver after the battle, and she's like, hey, Mystique told me that Magneto is your dad. Are you going to tell him? Like, what are you talking about? Why would Mystique tell this information to him? And then I do like how we didn't even talk about Magneto in the battle. Who cares? But I do like in this movie, a little praise in the movie, how they leave Magneto and Charles as friends and allies. And I like that.
Yeah. I don't remember. I really checked out by this point.
Yeah, that's the movie.
Oh, great. What was the cutscene? Because I definitely didn't watch it.
The cutscene is like Weapon X or something like that. I don't know. I'm assuming it's kind of setting up Logan, but Logan is on its own. Because, there's the mutant girl.
Oh, okay.
But I don't really know. It's not super exciting to have your your closing credits of a movie be someone moving a vial to a briefcase. That's maybe not like the most amped I'm going to get for the next movie. Yeah. I mean,
this happened to us.
This is a short episode. We're not even at an hour and a half. Can you believe it?
That's just how it has to be this time around.
Oh, I think so. I don't want to talk any more about this movie.
Thank goodness.
It is definitely my least favorite of these movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, the list is getting very interesting as I'm trying to organize it for that episode when we will give our rankings. But let's go to the calendar and let's give the people what they've been waiting for, which is an update on what's what. So it is the month of May. And that means if you go to patreon.com/Micah, you can listen to our episode on Matthew Vaughn's Kick-Ass. And 2 days ago, you would have heard our 4-year anniversary episode on Game Night. And next week, oh no. Next week, we interrupt our regularly scheduled program to bring you, unless the pregnancy hopefully makes it so we can't, Fast X. And then it's back to Logan. Oh, man. But at least last week we saw Guardians Volume 3, and it was the best one so far.
Do you think that they're going to drive so fast this time in Fast and Furious they'll reach heaven or hell? Is this cosmic? Are we getting cosmic this time?
Yeah. Well,
you gonna see Paul Walker? Where'd he end up?
Listener of the pod, friend of the pod, guest of the pod, Sean Muir. He thinks that they're gonna have to like get out the DeLorean and go back in time.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny, and then I said, "Who owns the rights to those movies?" And he goes, "Oh well, it's Universal for Back to the Future, and then I'm not sure what it is. Oh wait, it's Universal for Fast and Furious." Now I don't think that Bob, not Bob Zemeckis, Bob Gale.
Yeah.
I don't think he would allow that to happen. But
He's made it pretty clear that he never would.
Yeah, but I do think. You know what? I'm with you, though, Sean. I think that we are going to have time travel in this next movie. Why wouldn't you at this point?
I mean, just do it. Just do it, guys.
And
you've brought so many people back from the dead. You've basically already gone back in time.
Yeah.
Explain how those people have survived in your time travel.
And it would be cool if the movie starts with cars in space flying around shooting each other. That's how it should open.
No, this is how I wanted to start. It's still space, but it's the Mario Kart Rainbow track.
Oh my! If it did it, if they drive on a rainbow track, I will revoke everything I said about the Fast and Furious movies. I will revoke everything I've said.
That's when I'll finally understand it's about family.
Yeah, if they drive on a rainbow track, but it has to be a legit rainbow track, folks. But I will revoke everything.
And I want there to be a pot of freaking gold at the end of it,
or a gold star.
Yeah.
So I guess it's going to be, I think this is going to be a fun month to listen to our podcast. Going to be a terrible month for us, except for last week's Guardians of the Galaxy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Please share this podcast with a friend or a family member. And when you are around your friends and family, grab their phones, open up the app, give us 5 stars, and then also subscribe. They don't even have to know about it.
They'll never know.
If you have a spouse or a child that has a phone, do that as well. This is how we win. And then also, no, that's everything, actually. See ya.
Bye.